Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Point 99 podcast, Season 2, Episode 3. The Point 99 podcast is a running podcast made by runners for runners. If you're new to running, we hope to have topics and discussions that will help you along whatever path your journey is taking. Or for any seasoned runners, maybe some stories that will have you empathizing with our experiences, whether it's lessons we've learned during our own journeys, embarrassing stories, or heartstring pulling moments. We hope you'll stick with us while we try to share some good vibes, motivation, and positivity, and hopefully we can have a laugh along the way. For episode 3, I have an absolutely amazing guest lined up for you. The spectacular Tania Carmona. Much like episode 2's guest, Mike Houston, the pole fit ultra runner, Tania is an absolute warrior and achiever of some truly mind-blowing distances in the world of ultra. But moreover, she is a certified level 3 personal trainer and ultra running coach. I loved speaking to Tania and having a good old chat in what was a less structured recording than was had in episode 1 and 2, but it was super enjoyable. But before we get stuck into the interview with Tania, let's cover the happenings over the past week. Episode 2 with Mike Houston, the pole fit ultra runner, went down a storm. I've seen some great messages to not only myself in the podcast, but also to Mike, and deservingly so. We only scratched the surface of Mike's story in ultra running, but also into his openness towards mental health and helping others across the wider community. I'd be thrilled to have Mike join me once again in the future, and thankfully he feels the same. So whether it's in season 2 or before, during or after the Loch Ness 24 or in future seasons, like the machine that is the T800, Mike will be back. I'm also pleased to say that all the Run the Blade Weekender shoutouts absolutely bossed the event. Even the members of the community I didn't know were going to be taking part looked to have a fantastic time. Congratulations to everyone, but a special shout out to both Karen and Jace for smashing the 50k ultra. Karen especially had been grinding away up to the event, always smiling, always positive, like her Instagram handle, even when things were a little bit tough. A massive congratulations, Karen. But also to Jace, who only signed up to take part in his first ultra on the 26th of June, so not that long ago. Sure, Jace is a really strong marathon runner, but to absolutely demolish his first and, as he says, his only ultra marathon in 5 hours and 13 minutes, that's truly something spectacular. Personally, I think Jace should think about changing his Insta name to the Edinburgh Ultra Runner. It was really great to see so many faces from the community at the various distances across the weekend, meeting up and having a good time, even with the torture of running. But from the torture of Run the Blades 10k, the Dibber's very own Pocket Parisian made the ultra-marathon worthy trip north into the Highlands, ably chauffeured and accompanied by the legend who is Control-Alt-Delete, to join myself and Trail to Try, Lorna, for a team recce of the Loch Ness 24 route. That's pretty crazy going, being that the pair left Edinburgh at 7 in the morning for a run at 11, with Elodie having an hour or so journey on top of that to get to Lees. It really goes to show how crazy they both are, but also how kind, caring and awesome they are. As always, it was great seeing them both, and also fantastic meeting Lorna for the first time. Even though we live so close, it was the first for everyone. But onto the route. There have been some massive improvements to the course since we were last there. Sure, a lot of care and attention will have to be paid to the routes in the tree sections, but the forestry paths have seen a lot of investment and upgrade work in the past few months. This will come as a great bonus to everyone throughout the 24-hour event. The hill climb around about the 5-kilometre mark as you get led away from the loch's edge has also seen some significant work, cutting back much of the undergrowth, bushes and smaller tree growth. It now appears to be a lot wider, looks and feels less imposing, and will allow for overtaking, which was pretty much impossible last year. I'm also glad to report that neither Elodie nor Lorna thought the route was overly challenging on a reverse or standard directional run, other than the menace of the Pebble Beach. With the run being perfectly timed between the heavy rain showers we were experiencing, it was a quick spot of lunch before the guys headed back down the road to complete the 6-hour round trip for Lee or the 10-hour for Elodie. The countdown is really on now for the event, one that I'm almost wishing away. If it weren't coinciding with a lot of work pressures and deadlines, I'd be blinking it away. We're now sub 40 days until the event arrives on our doorstep. Finally, what else did I get up to last week? Well, very little. With only one other run for week 3 of the road to Amsterdam in the form of a 15-kilometre effort on Thursday. One that saw a PB in both 10 and 15-kilometre distances. It was a really poor showing from myself. I just didn't have the motivation and drive to get out. Even Parkrun didn't see a return last week, so I'm still a few away from hitting that landmark 25. This week, however, is already shaping up to be a lot more productive, so fingers crossed that continues. But as you might be able to hear, I'm having a little bit of difficulty with my voice today, and that's because I've already had my chat with the Mexican powerhouse, Tania Carmona. She definitely gave me a little bit of a kick up the backside and gave me an idea of what true productivity is. So here we go. Let's get into the discussion. My guest today is by far the craziest guest I've had on the podcast so far, but her very own website bio will do testament to why. I could easily reinvent the wheel with my introduction for her, but I've opted to put a Steve spin on her very own words. Tania is a business entrepreneur, personal trainer, and ultra runner extraordinaire. Having fallen in love with running in 2016, she has since completed a whopping 20 ultra marathons and other challenges of endurance, which explains the crazy. Like many who have found their calling in the fitness world, Tania has battled with her weight and yo-yo diets until she discovered her new lifestyle. She now dedicates her time to sharing her knowledge and experience to others to help them flourish just as she has, through positivity, building programs, and creating change. But from features in magazines such as Runner's World and Esquire, no less, she has now joined the esteemed ranks of guests on the Point 99 podcast. So join me in welcoming this globe-trotting Mexican goddess of ultras to the show, Tania Carmona. There we go. A little bit of a stumble there. That wasn't too bad.
Third time.
Third attempt. Oh, you're good though. Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
Good. So we've just had a little chat before I hit record. So I've got to know Tania a little bit better and she's got to know me a little bit, I think. I ask a lot of questions, but she didn't ask so many back. So, but I'm glad to be joined with you today because it's something a little bit different. Again, another ultra runner. Not a world I know a lot of about, but again, from our pre-chat, it turns out I know a little bit more about it. I follow a few ultra runners, but not so many females. So it's nice to have following up with Mike, who is, I think, compared to yourself, he's very early on his ultra marathon adventures. And then you've got, I said 20 there, but it's over 20 ultra marathons under your belt. You've already got another one lined up, I'm seeing, and other challenges. I like how you were vague with other challenges of endurance on your site. So hopefully we can do some, at least a little bit of justice for you today, and cover as much as possible, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. Love to share my experiences.
If I do end up talking too quick for you at all, just tell me to slow down or shut up.
All right, that's good. I'll be like, yeah, just slow down. No, it's fine. I think I am all right in the Glaswegian accent now. I've been living in Glasgow for 6 years now, I think. So yeah.
If you can understand a Glaswegian accent, I'm sure you can manage mine fine.
It was hard at the beginning. Like it was challenging, I have to say. It was like, what is this? The accent or some slang words that obviously I I knew English before,
Yeah.
but like American English. So when I moved here, that was my first challenge. When I moved here, probably it was like, it's English, but it's a weird English, and it
It's a
was just,
very strange English, isn't it? But not
yeah,
just Glasgow. When you have so many dialects of Scottish and there's so many slang words for it's insane. Sometimes I can't understand it. And being Scottish, you would think I would know a lot of it, but there's always something new every day.
exactly. So yeah, obviously that happens to me all the time. Like I still learn words, and I still, find it challenging at times. But yeah, I'll let
Yeah.
you know.
Super. Thank you. I'd say just tell me to shut up or slow down. But
Aye.
you've had a busy day training today. You've got your branding on, as I was pointing out. You've got your lapel mic as well. You're really, really well prepared for this.
Like I said, I record my programs a lot on demand, so I have to record, one
Yeah.
like that. I do have also one-on-one clients, so if they are home, but it's like one-on-one through video. So sometimes, kind of like helps having the wee microphone, and this is like my uniform, so this is what I wear every day.
It's a spot on logo as well. I mean, simple but effective. Simple
Exactly.
but effective. Okay. So I don't really have any questions written today. This is more for the listeners.
Ooh.
I'm really just winging it. I've got some notes. I've got pointers. Goes almost back to season 1 where I didn't always write the questions fully, and I just had to go with the flow. And I've structured myself so far with episode 1 and episode 2 with strict questions, and I feel that it might have held the episode a little bit. So I'm kind of going back to the roots. Go with the
Yeah,
flow.
more like
See
a
how you
chat.
answer. That's it. Yeah, more like a
Okay.
chat. See how you answer things, because otherwise I'm trying to steer things towards a question, and it doesn't always work that way. But
Totally.
as I say, we had a chat before we hit record, so you got to know me a little bit. I've got to know you a little bit more. And at the risk of repeating anything that we've already discussed or anything that I've already put up in different messages on social media, could you please do a little introduction for the listeners, a quick digest of who you are, what you do?
All right. So I am Tania. I'm from Mexico, and I am an ultra runner. I started my journey, 7 years ago? And it was like by pure mistake. I had no idea what I was getting into. Um, I think it started like anyone just kind of like wanted to do something fun. And at the beginning, it wasn't about fitness at all. Like I never thought I was overweight, or it was never something that kind of crossed my mind. So I kind of just did it because I wanted to do something fun. And actually, until now, I think still's been my full objective, to just have fun, and everything else just kind of, whatever spills out, it's better, is good.
Yeah.
But so I started, and then obviously I got through a massive transformation physically, mentally, just everything that, running and going through these challenges takes you. And obviously people are starting to ask, how did you do it? And what did you do? How can I do that? So I wanted to help these people to be like, give them like real and informative, not only like, oh, just do this, just do that. I wanted to have it like a knowledge. And that's where I started studying. So I got certificated as a PT, personal trainer, and also now I'm a certified ultra running coach as well. And mostly what I read or what I hear in my podcast, in my, my earphones when I'm like running, which is hours and hours, is just books, audiobooks about running, about studies, I love that part of it. So I start kind of falling in love into coaching as well, and just feel like coaching is taking a little bit of everything, mix it with theory and my own experience, and then I'm able to kind of help more people to that journey.
Spot on. But I'm gonna pull you up on something you said just before we hit record. You said you don't necessarily enjoy running, so to coach ultra running and try and encourage other people to get out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's when people are like, oh, I don't even like running that much. I was like, yeah, me either. Like I don't know if it's contrary from a lot of coaches out there are, but my coaching, I have a coach myself, and I love his coaching method, and I'm kind of copy it because it has worked for me, and that's what I can advise some people. Obviously, I advise or you recommend something that has worked for you. I'm not going to recommend something that I haven't tried or I don't agree with. So my method is my coach's method, which he's one of my biggest mentors. Is about not running that much, so I don't put massive distances in my training. It's more about strength work, and just it's more of being very just so less mileage, but with more objective of what you're doing. So we support a lot with strength training and other kind of training. So I don't have to run hours and hours and miles, but we mimic that situations in less time and using the gym and stuff like that. So being strength as our main foundation, and then sparkle a little bit of running on top.
That's very different to what you would usually associate with an ultra runner. Like you say, go run for hours and hours at a time. But if you're doing shorter stints and then subjecting your exophysical self to the abuse that you would effectively be doing on a longer run in a shorter space of time, that sounds probably more appealing to more people.
Exactly.
Less time, more approachable.
And that's why I liked it. I was like, I do like this. I do like going to the gym. I started really enjoying because I was able to last longer running without having to suffer that much. But I've never put myself through hours in running, which I do not particularly love. So, and obviously with that, having a strong base in strength, for example, I've never been injured. So it's also taking care of your joints, which obviously that helps that you are never get injured, but obviously reduce that injuries. And obviously you can build consistently for even longer periods. Like I said, I've been 6 years, 7 years training consistently without any injury. So I've never had to stop because of an injury, for example. So that, that adds up into and more if it's an endurance sport like this one, that's what you want, because that's where endurance is built up through years and years and years and years. So it's more of a strategic method to do it, and it's just training smarter rather than just doing volume, stupid volume with no sense. So
I guess anyone can go run for X amount of time, whatever the pace may be, but not everyone can suffer the intensity of the endurance of strength and conditioning on top of everything else.
And and then you just kind of mimic. You can mimic, for example, instead of going running 4 hours, because that's another method that I've seen obviously a lot, is you do 2 long runs back to back, for example. And obviously if someone is not super well trained or they're just starting and they start doing that, you see a lot of injuries because of that. But there's a way to mimic this, for example. So I would go a really hard leg day in the gym. So I would get my legs super tired, super sore, and then I'll go for an hour and a half, 2 hour run the next day. So my legs are the same, stay sore, but the mileage may not be much, but the input of that, the benefit of that when you wanted to run entire legs or, is the same without having to be out there for 3 hours. And mostly I train 40 to an hour every day. So I don't have to put, just only one day on the weekend to usually do my long runs. I mean, those do have to stay, but it's only once, So, definitely training is smarter. It's and that makes it also approachable for a lot of people, much more than, there's like old thinking of, I want to do ultra running. Now I have to, stop working and run every day for 5 hours. And, it's not the approach probably,
It certainly sounds more approachable because you're not losing so much time of your day. You're losing an hour, which you might go to the gym for an hour anyway.
Exactly. An hour is like that. Like I said, I usually do 40 to 1 hour at the gym every day. And then once in the weekend, I do have maybe my long run. And also just to remember that this, for example, I know ultra running, I do trail running, right? Because you can do also
Yeah.
ultra in the road. So a track or a, tarmac, that's a bit different than trail running, which I think is something that may be a point to make differentiation of it, because trail running is a totally different sport almost, and then more ultra trail running, it's like a totally different animal than road running or marathon running. So your body has to be built to endure long hours in the trails. So that means you have to be ready for rain, sunshine. It's much more things hitting you. The terrain is not always going to be flat. There's going to be bumps. There's maybe hills, downhills. So your body has to, sometimes climbing with hands and all.
Yeah.
So your body has to be strong enough to endure, because it's an endurance sport. So that's how you build a body to endure at the gym. Just kind of get it really, really strong, really fit, and then sparkle a little bit of running in there.
So have all your 20 plus ultras been trail ultras?
I think
mostly.
so.
Yeah, mostly. Okay. That was when you're saying you've got the difference of you've like to me as a complete kind of newbie to ultra running. In my head, I'm thinking ultra runners, it's trail, but I think that's because the people that I follow are trail ultra runners. But then I was asking you before we started, and the question I asked Mike about the Bislett Challenge, that's I suppose an endurance ultra event as well, depending on the distances you're doing, but it's a track one.
It's a track, so that's roads. Well, or flat.
Or running track.
That may be a little bit of a different. I would train, if I had an athlete that was going to do that kind of race, for example, I would train him differently than a trail person.
Than a trail, so, and then the same as well. Though the Loch Ness 24 it's a 7-kilometer lapping one, but it is on trail.
Yeah, but it's like almost like packed trail. So
sort of. So we were out. A few of the team went out at the weekend, and the reason I'm coming round to the 24 is because someone that we both know, Ryan Miller from the Press Play podcast. So Ryan has recently rolled his ankle, or rolled it twice, a couple of times, while out training for the Devil of the Highlands. Yeah. So he's now training, or at least he did a phenomenal effort at the weekend where he lapped on tarmac, and he did phenomenal times. And I'm hoping he hasn't just built himself up there, not realizing that although we're not necessarily going to be on a trail route the same as you might be on a trail route on like the Dinosaur Coast or the Ultra in Wales or Ultra in Scotland, it's still pretty dangerous in a way, because you're correct. The main path area is quite compact. It's a lovely surface, but then there's still a lot of quite large routes to navigate. Yeah. There's a pebble beach. There's still undergrowth areas, and it's so easy to roll your ankle on that without having the training on odd surfaces and terrains.
Yeah.
So hopefully he listens to this and goes, okay. Tania recommends people that do strength and conditioning. Doesn't do it.
I know I do get actually a lot of. I have a program as well that is for people like that you currently run in roads mostly or pavement, and they want to transition to trails.
Yeah,
like you should do a tiny bit of work in there to do that transition. Like I wouldn't recommend just to be like a road runner one day and then next day go and pound the trails, because that may happen. Definitely the trails, like I said, is a totally different sport. You do have to slow down. Maybe reason why the rolling ankles, if you're trying to go as fast as you are usually in roads, that is not going to happen. It's not going to translate that well. Number two, also do a lot of proprioceptive work, meaning just get those neural connections from your brain to your ankle. So when you're finding unstable surfaces like trail, for example, those connections are built in. So whenever you twist an ankle or something, that doesn't kind of like snap your brain and like totally let go, and that's when it snaps. So apart from flexibility and mobility, but that brain connection has to be quite quick. So whenever your body or your brain feels like, oh, it's a twist, it kind of like responds fast and puts it back to it. So it's also a brain reaction that has to be those connections have to build quite fast. So that, and there's ways to do it. There is a bit of training there to do, maybe with the Bosu balls. We do a lot of unstable work in one feet and the other one, and then a lot probably start with trekking a lot as well. That's kind of like a nice easy introduction, and then start building up that tiny bit of a run. But and then slow down. I think that's probably the number one advice that we give to people, and more so if they are like fast road
marathon runner. Yes.
Yeah. They want to go like, 10K, that's and you're going to be 10 times slower on trails. Yeah. So just kind of like take it really, really slow.
So what you've kind of got there is you're saying that ultra runners are effectively smarter than marathon runners because they've had to learn the mental side of understanding the stability and the strength to go.
I feel like you need to be more aware of your body, where you're standing. In road running, you can just maybe put your eyes in the front and just kind of like enjoy a little bit. In trail, your eye has to be always in front and down. Just so you can, or like you're making decisions so fast and you have to make correct decisions, right? Because otherwise that's you out the road. So you have to keep your mind always one step ahead. So that kind of has to also be practiced quite a lot. It's not as easy as in road running where you kind of like, you can take off your eyes off the road a little bit. You know there's nothing in there and you can just kind of relax in that sense. In trail, like I feel your brain is always being stimulated by all those factors. Plus, if you add the navigation, that you have to be always, aware where you are, your surroundings. Also, you are out there for hours and hours, so you have to be aware of your nutrition, your eating. So there's a lot going on at the same time that you have to be very effective in taking care of yourself, because there's no one there,
there's no table there with energy gels and a water bottle for you to get every so
and
often.
There's no like thousands of people around you, like if you're training a long training run, I've been out there for 5 or 6 hours with no one around, and you just have to take care of yourself. That means ankles, that means nutrition, that means hydration. You have to be taking, and navigation as well. You have to be quite self-sufficient in that sense as well. So it is, all those tiny bits are things that obviously maybe road running is not, or this kind of marathon, for example, doesn't have. The route is quite well, you can follow it, or there's always people around you, or there's so
you would hope with a marathon that the organizers planned it to be nice and flat, or as safe as possible, a nice flat road.
I know. I was like, I did Edinburgh Marathon, and it was quite an experience because it's been ages since I do a marathon. Like seriously 6 years since that was like my first marathon ages ago, and then I took trails, and it was just my trainer sent me you had to do 4 hours running, and then I was like, can I do road? And he's like, yeah, sure, why not? Like, because there's a marathon, can I sign up for it? And long story short, I got a number. So this was like Wednesday.
Jeez.
So I got a number for Saturday or Sunday.
Close. Wow.
The marathon. I know. Sorry for people that, there was someone that couldn't do it. So I just jumped in with her name, I
thought I was bad. I signed up with 7 weeks to go. I could only do 3 weeks of training. And I think from digesting, I had an injury, a knee injury. We thought it was a knee injury to begin with. And it turned out my calf was just really tight.
Yeah.
And I actually think it came in from my training for my second marathon. It was very similar to what I was doing for Edinburgh, which was my third. And I was running up a local hill, and it's trails. So I was going up these trails, and I think I was going too fast. So my calf was getting too tight, because in my head, I'm going, as a marathon runner, as a road runner, I need to go up here as fast as I can instead of take my time and enjoy it. So my muscle was getting super, super tight, and I wasn't loosening it off again. So I've come out, I've had my physio, my masseuse has given me a good talking to. I now stretch properly at the end of doing trails. I take my time a lot more. I'll walk a section. I've learned a lot from watching your content, but also watching Mike's content. There's no harm in walking. There's no one's looking at your time and going, oh, he's going out for 2 hours and it's taking him X amount of time. It's enjoying yourself, and not, like you say, it's about trying to enjoy it as much as possible, so you don't burn yourself out and go, I don't want to go out today.
Exactly. No, definitely. Like I said, it's just take your time. That's what I like about trail running. No one at the end of any of my races, there's no, like, if maybe a road runner, but a trail runner, a peer would never ask, what was your time? Like it's usual in the marathon world, that's the first question. Like, oh, what was your time? Like, I even feel like, oh, like, why are you asking me that? Like, you never ask that, So in my world, you never ask for times, or, it's not important. It's like, I finished and that was it. Like, you and me, we covered the same distance. We went through the same challenge, regardless of it took you 5 or 7 hours or 10. It's the same distance. So yeah, in the trail and ultra running world, it, like, maybe if you're like a super pro or, but in normal circumstances, we'd never ask like, oh, how long it took you. And so I'm a little bit against that. Even when I'm training or when people are training, it's like, I feel like it's almost when people put their weight on, like no one posts a picture and say like, hi, it's me. I'm 70 kilos, or whatever. Like, it's something so personal. Like, it shouldn't be out there because you are putting pressure in someone else. So when I started my journey, I remember seeing people, posting just like that. You're like, oh, my run. And then seeing their paces. And I was like, I will never run like that. Like, I will be like, I'm just giving up. I'm not even going to try. Like, I will never. So I think instead of promoting, maybe they're doing it harmless, of course, but instead of promoting, it's not very inviting. So if you see any of my posts, I will never put, maybe I put the distance, but I will never talk about times. I will never put paces because it doesn't matter. So when that I'm trying to, and more like we were talking about women, don't feel, like nervous or feel intimidated by going in a race. So just go out there. It doesn't matter the pace. There's no paces. There's no time. Just go out and enjoy it.
Go and have fun. Yeah. I think when I started out as well, very similar, like you said, it was fixating on other people's times.
Right. Everyone does it.
Exactly. And in season 1, we had words that grind people's gears, and it was, I only went out and did this, or I just went out and did this. And it's words that people don't realize they're using, but it does affect other runners.
It does affect, definitely. I'm just like, now, like, I made a promise to myself that I will never, and I still don't put any times or splits or anything in my Instagram. Or if anyone is interested, there's a Strava, and that's what Strava is for. You can go and find me. It's obviously public. You can see it. You can see how fast or how slow I am. I don't care. But for the public, for people that I want to inspire, or they're starting that on Instagram, just scrolling. That's my main feed, or my main way to communicate with people. I try not to.
As I said in the introduction, it's about positivity and encouragement.
Exactly.
I noticed that I don't know if you've done the Ultra X Scotland event, which is local to me.
Coming in October.
Ooh. When I was I was watching, I was spectating for Kaylee I think it's Webster is her name. The Happy Diet.
Oh yeah.
She did Ultra X50, which is Fort Augustus to Inverness sort of area. And I did notice a lot of the finishers, they didn't ask what their time was. It was, how was that for you? How did you get on? It wasn't, how fast were you? What was your time? It was, how was it for you? And it opens more conversation, more openness, less. They didn't seem to be so held up on time, because they were just like, no, that event was really good for me, or it didn't go quite the way I wanted. My nutrition, my hydration was slightly off, or I couldn't see the flags. It was more open conversation, more willingness to kind of discuss it, rather than, well, I don't really want to mention my time, because times don't matter on those distances.
No, definitely doesn't. And even the crowds and, the people are a bit different as well. Like I said, I could see it or experience it when I was in the marathon. It's quite intense. Like I feel like running people are like, because they are so asphyxiated. I mean, I'm not saying it's in general, right? Obviously I don't talk about a certain person, I don't know. But in general, when I got into the start line, it was this I could feel it. It was like so, like nervousness,
it's a pent up tension, isn't it?
Yeah, like these people were like warming up, like so serious. And if I was a new runner, I would be like in my pants. I was like, oh my god, what's about to happen? Everyone looks so serious and so, like, this isn't it rocking? Like if this was my first rodeo, I would be like out of here. Like I was like, I don't belong here. Like obviously I knew what was going on. It was interesting for me to see, because I obviously seen it now, and like as a trail runner experiencing a road marathon, and I can see definitely the crowd is a little bit different. Like, no, I went by myself. Like I said, I didn't know anyone, and I just sat there eating a croissant in a corner, waiting for the start while everyone was warming up, and I'm just gonna eat a croissant.
Yeah, as you do.
I just sat there alone, just eating my wee bread and just, waiting for the start. And I'm not saying they're not friendly, but I think everyone was with their earphones, like I said, and just warming up and all that. And for example, I went to the last race that I did was the Pennine North. I didn't know anyone as well. I mean, I don't know anyone everywhere, but I'm from Mexico. How would I know some people here? I drove down to the Pennine North, and I didn't know obviously anyone. And I stood there. We took the wee bus from the end to the start, because it was a point to point.
Yep.
We jumped in the bus and everyone was eating and we were all just chatting. It's like a little bit. And then before the race started, we all sat in the wee cafe, just eating and just having a coffee until the guy is like, okay, 10 seconds to the start. We're like, oh, okay, time to go. We were all chatting, and like the crowd is a bit different. Like no one was warming up, and no one was just in their earphones, like super, it was just a
lot more relaxed.
A bit more of a relaxed vibe.
You're like you said, though, the marathon runners are they're very in their head on the start line. You can see, because they're obviously thinking about, they're wanting to get their time and they're fixated on time. Whereas, like you're saying, that there is more ultra runners, does sound like everyone's just there for a good time. Just to get that.
Like we're like, all right, let's do this. I feel the vibe of like, we're getting into this unknown, because obviously not everyone knows the route. Or mostly no one knows the route when you start these things, and it's like a vibe of like a team. Let's make it to the end, everyone. Obviously, if you see someone through the route that is struggling, we always stop to take care of someone. In road marathon, there's no way someone's stopping for that guy.
But you do notice that as well.
Down, man.
That's it. I've seen people fall before, and I've seen it in cycling events as well. And a lot of people don't stop. They're fixated on their time, and they just go. They just leave them.
Like, oh, you're out, man. Bye.
I have stopped a few times. I tend to stop. But no, I know what you mean.
The medics were there in the Edinburgh Marathon. The medics were there, so I didn't.
Yeah, the medics were there. Yeah.
So no, and I'm not saying one sport is better than other, but I'm just saying those are the difference in my eyes. It definitely, it has a difference. if someone's interested in going into the trail running, I think, or even start running, I feel trail running, I know it looks even more daunting and more difficult, but I think it's slower.
Yeah.
The community is also very, very including. There's no times, like you were saying, so maybe it's a bit more friendly for someone that is starting.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, because I tried to run before and rode, and I was not happy. That never happened, and I stopped running for like 5 years. I was like, this is not for me, until I discovered trail running. So if anyone's just like, starting or wants this journey, I think trail running offers this beautiful option that you can walk and it's fine, and you can do a wee joggle and it's fine as well, and it's not so it doesn't need to be as fast or as in that hectic as the road, for example.
Trails seem to pass a lot quicker for me, even though the distances might be the same. My standard route is around about 8 kilometers. And when you see it on a Strava map, it looks quite large.
Yeah.
The 24 route to go back to that is 7 kilometers, but it feels like it goes in a blink of an eye because it's variable. There's always something different to see. Every lap's different.
Even the weather can be different.
That's
and
it
can
yeah.
make it feel easier or even harder if it's a hot day, like it happened to me last time, or it can make it, every day is different. So also,
So with that, since you've mentioned it, do you want to move on to a little bit about the Dinosaur Coast? And I know it didn't quite go
Jurassic Coast.
The Jurassic Coast, yeah. So it didn't quite go the way that you'd initially planned, but you weren't alone in what happened to you. There was other participants that did struggle as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was shocking, to be honest. I never thought it could be that humid in the UK.
Coming from Mexico, and having been in Mexico, I know how humid it is.
But like I said, I just started running when I moved here, so all I know is here.
Yeah.
The weather from here, and I'm usually I am okay with heat, like just heat. Like I actually, if it's like a super warm day, like actually Edinburgh Marathon, everyone was like, "Oh my god, it was so sunny." I loved it. Like that was like everyone was joking that I was solar powered because I was just really loving it. But so when I seen the weather in the Jurassic Coast, obviously I'm checking the weather every 2 seconds before my race. I've seen, it was 25, 20 something. So I was like, oh, it's going to be warm, toasty, so it's fine. I actually like that. Yeah. But I never thought about the humidity factor. Like I never, that was a new thing for me. So yeah, right from the start, I think from kilometer 10, 12, it was like what my water was gone.
Yeah.
And the first checkpoint was 26. And yeah, it was just not what I thought, which again.
But you can't plan for everything. You can't plan for every eventuality, can you? It's
the beauty of the sport as well. Like if I think I take it now a little bit more relaxed. I think I only have 3 DNFs in my life, my running life. At the beginning, I took it really, really like close to my heart. Like I almost like lived in my room for like a month. Like no one talked to me. I'm a failure. I don't deserve to live. Like I'm like, oh my god,
Yeah.
But then you start growing and you mature in this sport, and I am now in the point like that's the beauty of it. That's actually why I signed up for these things. Like if I wanted to finish every race I sign up, I'll just sign up for my 10Ks, for a half marathon, like it's almost what I want. Every time I sign up for something, I said to myself, I'm only going to sign up for races that I don't know if I'm going to finish.
You're stepping out your comfort zone every time.
Yeah, that's my go-to. Like if I'm going to spend my money, it's going to be for something that I don't know if I can finish. If I know I can finish it, I may not, I may pass on it. Like I may not do it because I know I can finish it. So not finishing, it's like almost you got what you wanted, so I'm learning to take it that way as part of the game. Sadly, I only had 2 races planned this year because I thought this one would be quite I usually plan 1 or 2 big ones a year. So this one didn't work. So, well, last year I did 5, but yeah, that was a different story.
It was it 100 miler? Was it 100 miles or 100 kilometers?
This one was 100 miler.
100 miler. So on one of the hottest days of the year, most humid, given where it is as well on the south coast, I was tracking you because I thought you put your tracker up, and I thought I'll keep a track because I knew you were coming on. I thought I'll keep a track; it'll be great. And then I saw your post. Oh, your partner was manning your socials that day, and it wasn't to be.
I thought this is gonna be amazing. I felt amazing. Like I had a really strong running training block. I smashed the marathon, which was the longest kind of run that I had in my books for that, preparing for the 100-miler, and I was feeling quite well. Like everyone was in place, my parents came all the way to Mexico to kind of crew me and bring me, as always, where they try to be here for the big races, and everything was like, ready to go. And that's also, a little bit of the things that is like painful a little bit, but
yeah,
I think everyone now gets that is how it is, and it's a gamble all the time. You cannot control all the factors.
That's if you could, it would be too easy for you. As I say, you're pushing yourself, you're stepping out your comfort zone, and if it was that easy, yeah.
And then because then later, I think that was a weekend of Western States. I think actually, and Camille Herron and a couple of people that I was following, they didn't make it. And I'm like, if a pro athlete has a bad day, what are my chances, as well?
Everyone has bad days.
So, obviously, we all get bad days, bad runs, but, it's bad that it's obviously so many things in line. And I invested so much time, effort, money, everything on it, and it didn't work. But
so it's maybe not something to put labels on, but would you class that as your least favorite run so far, or any of the DNFs, or is there maybe one that maybe an ultra you've completed that you don't look back on as favorably?
Oh yeah, I have one from last year. So last year I did 5. I did the GB Grand Slam, so it was 5 50-milers in 6 months, and the one that I didn't like, but I had to do it. Mm-hmm. If I was my choice, I wouldn't have done it, but I needed to run 5 in order to complete the Grand Slam. It was the Chester one. So it's Chester 50.
Okay.
And it's all flat, mostly, next to a canal or a river. It's just like from here to Edinburgh. So it's like the one from Glasgow to Edinburgh. It's just next to a path. And it's all like that. Oh my God. I swear.
It's too boring for you.
I thought my brain was just going. And it's too flat as well. My knees, my hips, everything was just so much in pain. So when people say like, oh, that's flat, it's going to be easier, it's actually worse.
Yeah.
Because the same muscles are being worked all the time. In comparison to, for example, one of my favorite ones was a Pennine barrier, which it has a lot of elevation. But, because you're climbing, maybe your quads are resting a little bit more. And then when you're going down, your glutes rest, your quads work. Yeah. So it's kind of like one thing is working, the other one's resting, and then you kind of like, I didn't even finish that sore. Not as sore as I finished a flat one, for example. So apart from like not being very visually, motivating.
Yes.
That one, just anything that is flat, it's a killer for me, just because, again, I'm not a fast runner either. So I do need my walkable heels to kind of like rest a little bit.
Yeah.
You were asking how much do we walk? We walk a lot.
A lot, yeah.
I walk a lot. So all the uphills, I will be walking, and I'll just juggle down I'm all right going down. I can downhill quite fast, and then just the flats, I just juggle them down as well. So yeah, But yeah, that one probably something that the Chester one was quite flat.
I'm not going to
But
say it's your worst one. So let's label it as your less favorite. So what's on the
yeah.
flip side? What's your most favorite then?
So I think the most favorite one, the last three I did from the GB Ultras, they were beautiful. Beautiful. They were all different. And then I think it was before we were recording, I was telling you that I run these distances because I want to travel. I really love to travel. And that's my way, because since obviously the UK is not my home country, it's been a way for me to travel and experience and see a little bit of the country. So this Grand Slam last year gave me a beautiful, good excuse to travel and see a lot of different parts of the UK. So the Pennine Barrier was absolutely beautiful. So you climb the 3 Yorkshire peaks, plus obviously a little bit more.
Yes.
So it's an 80 plus. And then there's Wales, which that was absolutely stunning. I've never been to Wales, so that was my first time stepping my foot in Wales. It was brutal, but beautiful. And the third one was the Snowdon. So you actually climb Snowdon on the race and then obviously go down and loop around.
Is that the medals for it behind you on your picture frame? Because the Welsh medal was massive. Yeah, that's the Grand Slam medals, are they?
Yeah, these are the 5, and then I have a massive. That's in my.
Is that the one that's in the photo? Is like the size of your head?
That is the size of my head, and because of those 5, I got a massive medal. That's what I wanted when they gave it to me at the end of 5, which it was a last one from Snowdon. Yeah. I wanted to cry. I was just so tired because it was 5 events in 6 months. Even the last one, I was so tired at the beginning of that one, and then you were asking me to climb the Snowdon and down, and I was just so done. I was just but if I knew if I failed one, I had to do Glasgow to Edinburgh to make it up so I can do the 5.
Oh yeah.
And now exactly, and I was there is no chance I'm going to do.
If you didn't like Chester, you weren't going to like Glasgow to Edinburgh.
So I was no, I'm climbing. I'm hurrying up. So I was in one checkpoint, actually, it was super close. They were oh, you have 40 minutes to spare. So it was I was almost catching checkups, check-ins and at the beginning of that one, because I was just struggling. But then after I kind of picked up, but it was oh my, there is no way I'm doing Glasgow to Edinburgh.
It's so cool that it's so cool that there's a British version, ultra version of what would be to an ultra runner the equivalent of doing the marathon ultras, doing the big 6. So that's the big 5 in UK ultra running. That's really cool, and you get that massive trophy at the end, a massive medal,
a massive one. And then I didn't bail in any of them. My 5 tries. Obviously, if you fall off the wagon, there's another 2 that you could make up for one another. Yeah. So, but there was one only. I think it was Scotland and Wales. You only had 2 weeks in between those 2.
Yeah, I did see that on your Instagram. There was very little time between those. So that's even more. Yeah. It's phenomenal to do that distance in 6 months, but then to do 2 of them so in such close proximity without recovery time.
I know that was when I was well, at the beginning, I didn't plan to do the Grand Slam. It was not in my head until I seen the medal. I was oh yeah, I won that, baby. So what do I have to do again? And you need to do 5 of these ones. And I start seeing, and I was okay, number 1 and 2, not too bad. 5 is not bad, but I was this jump from the 2 in the middle. I said, if I'm going to go as one of those, that is brutal. And then I seen obviously the the distance and the altitude and all that. And I was oh, that is going to be a ride. But I said, if I don't make it, there's always that Glasgow to Edinburgh. But in my head, I was there is no chance I'm gonna do Glasgow. But so I need to finish this. So yeah, it was definitely, and the organizers are absolutely the best. So yeah, big shouts. If anyone also wants to start with I would recommend maybe those the last 3-4 are for like medium. No, probably not medium. The last 2 probably you need to be quite advanced in the sport, because there's a lot of navigation, and obviously because you go so high,
maybe
the
about
weather,
altitude as well.
Yeah, the weather it's a bit tricky and stuff. But the first ones I would recommend for anyone that wants to start putting your foot into challenging but okay kind of races, because the organizers are absolutely amazing. They will take care of you, which that's one important thing about when you're choosing a race. Also, the organizers, that they take care of you, that
They don't just forget about you, just send you on your way and forget you until you get to the end.
You hear some stories, so yeah.
I'm gonna quote myself from last episode with Mike, and that I thought stuff he was doing was what I'm about to say, but that truly sounds like 6 months of a masterclass of self-abuse in ultra running.
Yeah, that was my year. I was like, that's it. Obviously, when I finished the last one, I was like, that's it. I'm done for this year. I'm.
And would you ever consider doing it again?
I wouldn't do any of the races that I finished again, because it's kind of like a thing. Like
You've done it once, yeah.
And I think Mike was saying that in his interview as well, that there's so many that I don't, and I have to pick quite smart, because your body can't handle. I wouldn't recommend someone to do 5 was definitely an abuse, like you said.
Yeah.
I would never recommend someone to do 5 big events in a year. Probably 3, maybe, depending on your level. But maybe I started with 1 or 2. I think that's my comfortable zone. Yeah. That's good. Obviously, depending on the distance, and obviously depending on your level, but in general, I wouldn't put that many. So I have to be, you have to pick and choose what is going to be your battles of that year.
Yeah.
Because that's the only shot you got. And obviously I want to explore more. And so, I wouldn't do one that I did already. But I'm going back to the Jurassic Coast. Like, I feel like it was such a beautiful, like the scenery I didn't even have a chance to enjoy it. So that's one I would definitely.
You want to conquer Jurassic Coast. That's, yeah.
Of course, I will need to conquer it. We have like unfinished business. But because I felt so bad the whole way, I feel like I really never enjoyed it. Like, I was just trying to survive so bad that I didn't have a chance to like purely like seeing, really experience the place. And that's what I like to do, and see the scenery and all that.
So we'll go back to that then. With not doing as well as you would have liked, did it adversely affect your mental health at all, or did you kind of go, well, a couple of days, shrug it off and move on? You've said that but to begin with, in your adventure into ultra running, you used to take them quite hard, the losses or not doing as well as you hoped. But with Jurassic Coast, do you find it adversely affects your mental health anymore, or is it just it didn't go well, move on?
I think it was there, but the other part of me, like, how we always have like 2 voices in your head. I think before, the other one was super loud and definitely took me down. But this time, I think the other one, like the mature runner, took over.
Yeah,
it definitely was there in the background. Like, oh, you're not good enough. Like, why you even trying this if you can't? Like these.
You weren't beating yourself up as much. Yeah,
exactly. But then the mature side of it was like, hey, everyone has like everything that I was telling you. So definitely, it's in the background. But I don't feel this time. And then also I had my parents with me, and this time I had a little bit more followers, and I have a lot more people in there in my Instagram, and they were following me. So I received a lot of messages that definitely helps. So, that's when the community
picks you up, really, lifts you up, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It got me into a better, if I was feeling a bit sore. Yeah, it was like 2-3 days, probably a little bit, down. But, I think
pick yourself up, dust yourself off. Yeah.
It's just natural and normal, but definitely less than at the beginning when I started, definitely.
So with adventures being your key, Am I right in thinking your next big adventure will be Ultra X Jordan? Is that what shows on your page?
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. So that would be my first. So obviously every year, like I said, I put a little bit of like, oh, what we're going to do next year. So for me, I try to like each year I plan, obviously.
Yeah.
And then I like December 31st for me actually is like super serious because everything I did before it gets erased. So, and then like the start starts again, you know, the
The
countdown
new
starts where
year.
you have
Yeah.
365 days to be or to do something better or try something new than last year. So I'm always on the hunt, like, oh my God, if I do this year and then the next year I have to do that. So kind of like keeps me going. That's my little like game with myself that I like to play. So I try to keep it like every year, you know. So this year I was like, oh, let's try to do 100 miler, which that didn't work out, but all right. And do a stage race, which I've never done either.
Yeah.
So those are my two like new things that I'm trying this year. And so hopefully that one goes well.
It's something different, and it'll be warm. Oh, it should be warm. You would
But
hope
not
it'd be
humid.
warm, but not humid. Exactly. It'll be a dry heat.
So that I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that, I think, hopefully. But it has other things that I've never experienced before, like running in the sand, which I'm reading, obviously, listening to a lot of people that have done it before, kind of like learn from these people, well, whatever they've learned from that experience to kind of like, you know, learn as much as I can. And I'm going to do a couple of runs. I'm going back to home, so I'm going to do a couple of runs in the sand to kind of like see, you know, try as much as I can.
Yeah.
And, you know, be as ready as I can. Because
It's a lot of day trips to the beach.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
When is Ultra X Jordan? Have you got a countdown for it, or is it much later in the year?
It's in October, so it's not that far.
It should be a little bit cooler by then as well, though.
Yeah, I checked and it's supposed to be not bad. I follow a couple of people that have done it and they say it still's pretty hot. But yeah.
Self-abuse.
Excited.
It wouldn't be fun if you weren't.
Exactly. It has to be a challenge again. I don't know if I'm gonna finish it. So
positive mental outlook. You're going to complete it. You're going to overcome.
Oh yeah. I always obviously try like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. This is the one. But whenever I sang, I was like, oh, I don't know. But what if we actually finish it? All right, let's try it out. You know. But and obviously, I don't know. It's not like a 10K. Like I don't know if I'm going to.
Yeah.
There's
something
always
different.
That. Yeah.
Yeah, you always have that moment of doubt of, like you say, you could do a 10K, you could do a half marathon. It almost seems to lose its joy after that. And I think I'm in that sort of boat myself. I could go buy a medal, just do a 10K. I could go. I ran a 10K the other day myself, and just I got a PB in it. So why would I sign up for one unless I'm really, really pushing myself? And I do find I push myself more at events. But if I really want to achieve something now, it has to be ultra running, and it's something that I mentioned to Mike, it's something that I'm looking at. I would sign up for Run the Blades, but I have a rational fear of wind turbines. I don't like the noise. I don't like how big they are.
Flat.
I know, yeah. But
I've seen it and I was like, that is one I will never do.
I like the look of the one that Kaylee did, the Ultra X Scotland, because it's so local to me as well. I wouldn't have to I wouldn't have to get a hotel. I could just rock up in the morning. It does.
That's the other thing, obviously, with ultra running, you have to travel. Sometimes the logistics of it is, and
you're usually out of the way as well. You're not in a city. It's not easy to get accommodation.
Not usually have to stay one day before and obviously one day after, because when you'll finish too tired, or probably you're going to finish until early hours of the morning, the next morning. So you do have to stay So yeah, it's definitely a little bit more of the logistics and how am I gonna get there the hotel and or plane and rent a car, which I had to do in the Jurassic Coast, for example.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot of logistics. Definitely that part. Also, it's not as easy like, well, I'm gonna rock into my 10K here.
But you've then also got everything on top of that. You've got your kit, your drop bags, everything. It's a very intense experience for you, and then having to do other accommodation. So
it is. Like last year with the GB, I was telling that to my coach. He's like, "How you feeling?" I'm like, "I'm not feeling too bad, like body wise, but mentally, I'm so drained.
Yeah,
like,
you were exhausted from it.
I'm just exhausted from like having to organize logistic wise everything, 5 trips and where everything has to be, and just have all my kit and prepared, and like all that was very stressful. And like I'm okay physically, well, kind of, but then mentally I was drained for a while for that.
Yeah. You need a person. Yeah. You need a personal assistant to do all that stuff for you.
Carry my bags for me.
You just say, "Where am I going? I just need. What time am I meant to be there?"
But you also get smarter about it now. With obviously 20 plus races I've done, now I have lists of everything.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit more organized in that sense. Like I know how I like my bags. So I'm almost like a robot almost now when I pack my bag or a checkpoint. Like I know what works, what doesn't work. Like I just don't have to forget anything, but I have, like I said, lists. So I have a list. I know how to do my Excel file. So I like how it looks a certain way so I don't get lost. Like all those kind of things. I know it's a lot of logistics, but I have simplified it as much as I can now. Because obviously doing it for so long now that you get into the hang of it as well.
Yeah, it's a rhythm, and you know where everything is in your bag that you can just put your hand on it and it's there.
Oh, absolutely. That is rule number 1. You have to, that's one of the things that another coach told me, is that you have to almost master your bag. Like you have to like close your eyes and know where everything is. Like, and until now, like my chapstick lives in the same bag all the time. My everything lives, it's like rubbish, whatever glue I'm finishing, it ends in the front pocket. And all that, like everything, I know where everything is at all times in my bag as well.
Spot on. No, I'm learning a lot from you. I am moving closer and closer to the idea of signing up for something.
So that's a good tip. That's a very, very, very good tip. Even since the beginning, just start, putting things where they are. So
everything has a place. Everything has a home.
Everything has a home. Even like I said, rubbish, it goes in the rubbish bags. The goods go usually here. Hard food like peanuts, cookies and stuff, they go in this side. Like I know, so whenever I want something, I know it's here, or I want to go here, so on. Or salt tablets goes in the medical kit, which also goes here, which is in the front pocket behind the water bottles. So all that kind of, but again,
perfect place to be as well, because if you can't swallow it, then water bottle. That's you've planned that out. You definitely gave it some thought.
I forgot my water bottle in the last checkpoint.
Well, I think by that point, in your debrief afterwards, you had said you weren't really with it because it was so humid and you're so drained. You can't remember a lot of what's going on, and I think that was very similar in Edinburgh with the way that Ryan was. He couldn't remember a lot of what happened in the last half hour for him finishing, and it does sound, having suffered concussion in the past.
I heard Ryan and that. I was actually during a run and I was like laughing because that has happened to me a couple of times, many times actually, in a lot of races. I think you just zone out, like.
You do. I think with concussions, it's usually the cause is dehydration, and if you're going to the extremes that you're going to, and the same with him, and it was so hot for Edinburgh, easy being dehydrated to the point where your brain switches off.
I think also it's not only because dehydration, because I've had it also in good races as well. Okay. I think you just enter into meditative state. You're just so relaxed. that just everything just gets so quiet and you just get into the rhythm of the trail that I did the West Highland Way, and I can't remember, I swear to God, the first time I did it, because I can't remember the second day, like at all. Like it's a total
you have a medal to say you've done it.
I can't remember at all what happened. Like it's just no. That was my first attempt of 100-miler ages ago. 95 miles the West Highland Way.
Yeah, Mike said that too. He doesn't like the idea. He wants to do it, but he doesn't want to do it because it's not quite 100 miles.
Yeah, I know. But I tried it because I was like, oh, you know what? I just moved here to Glasgow actually, and it was one of the races that will be local for me in that point. So I went for it. I fell short at mile 70 something with hypothermia, but before that I couldn't remember a lot of things that happened as well. So yeah, but that has happened a couple of times. Maybe if you had a rough time, but also if you had a really good run, like to just go into this meditative state, which that's one of the reasons why I actually like running as well. It's just everything gets so quiet that just kind of like relax, and just the time passes and it's just entering like another dimension. Like suddenly I'm like running hour one, and suddenly I look back and I'm like 7 hours. When did that happen?
The only thing I can compare that to, and I know people are going to be shouting and I'll get abuse for this, but the closest I get is I love driving. Yeah. And sometimes I'll drive from home to work and I'll be so relaxed about it. I'll have music on or I'll have a podcast on. I won't remember 3 or 4 miles of that journey. And then you start doubting yourself. Did I drive sensibly? Did I drive safely? And of course you did. But
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. I think your brain just goes into like automatic pilot.
Yeah.
And you're just actually enjoying it and just kind of let go, and your brain's, does what it's doing. I'm usually listening to podcasts or audiobooks, like I said, and just such in the groove that when I would come back, I look back and I was like, oh,
where'd that time go? Yeah. That's a great way of running ultras though, isn't it? Because if you're not having to experience the hours and hours of punishment, you start and then you finish and you go, oh, I'm done. That's even better.
That's what happened with the first races, it was like 50k. Oh, that wasn't that bad. Wonder if I can do a 60. And then like when you finish 60, you're like, I wonder if I could do 70. And then just kind of like start, and that's where everything just went off rails.
So I'll try and rein myself in now, because we've been talking for a little while, and I don't want to take up all your evening. No. So when you're saying there, you signed up, you've done 50k, you've done up to 100k. Do you have an end goal for ultra running, or is it one of these ones you think will just be always trying to surpass the last big milestone?
I think I just want to travel. Like I love experiencing that. So I want to be I want to hang into my fitness as much as I can, so I can discover more places with this now. And the first step now is Jordan, that I'm feeling a bit stronger to be able to go, out there into, in a more serious location. Yeah. And hopefully I can do that more now that I am, my husband Andy just retired as well, so we'll be doing more and more traveling, and that's one of my objectives now, to travel. And everywhere we go, anyways, I always go running. So I have a wee channel that I put Tania Runs the World, because that's sort of like when I want to do now, just kind of run the world. If it's a holiday or if it's a race, I just love discovering the places that I go, just with my 2 feet, and just getting lost a little bit in wherever I am.
I do like that's on your profile. You've got all the flags of where you've been. That sounds like a great way of doing it.
Just want to hang in for the fitness as long as I can. Which, thank God, ultra running is a quite old sport, and more for women. So actually, I haven't even reached my peak age. So yeah, it's great. I'm usually like the baby in the races. So I'm excited that
there's still so many places you can go, so much you can do, stage events, 200 milers. the list will go on, and hopefully for a long time, like you say, you'll be ticking these off and achieving the unachievable to people like myself, really.
Oh, it's achievable for anyone. That's
To
that's
throw
one of the
yourself in.
things I want to say, because I'm not, you've seen my, I don't know if you've seen my photos from before. Like, I'm not, I'm not talented. Like, it was not like I've been an athlete all my life and, I progressed to this stage. Like, literally, I just started 6, 7 years ago and from nothing, and just being quite consistent. And again, like I said, I'm not a fast runner. I just love the experience of it. So I think anyone, if you can walk, uh, you can do this.
You certainly had that reel up just a few hours ago of this is who I was before, and this is where I am now. I think
Exactly.
that's really important.
The only thing is, if you want to do it, obviously, some people will be like, "No, I do not want to do that." But if it's in your head tickling you,
Yeah.
like, if it's a possibility, then I think it's good to always think in the what if I can actually do it? What if I can finish this? What if, instead of, oh, I'm not made for that, what if I can actually do that? So always attacking life and races as well with a little bit of what's the name, curiosity.
Yeah.
Of what is possible.
Life would be boring without curiosity.
Exactly.
To finish off, then I did very late on. I put a question to see whether any of the audience had any questions for you, and I got one. You might not want to answer this. You might, of course, because runners love a good poo story. The listener question was from Roy Lamb, and he said, "What's your best or worst poo-related story?"
Oh my god! It's actually on my blog. But
Is
I'll
it?
tell you, I will not make you guys read the blog, but I'll tell you the funny story. So it was during the Pennine Barrier. Like I said, it was a lot of climbing.
Yeah.
And on the way down, I was like, oh, I really need to go to the toilet. So as any trail runner, you just find a wee bit of, private space and just, kind of hang yourself, knee there. But my legs were absolutely dead, like dead. So when I tried to go down, I just fell to the ground. And I just sat there and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to be here. Like, I'm just going to go here. Like, that's it. I'm not even going to try to stand up and do it. I'm just going to go here. And so I did. Obviously, I got up. However, I went. Also, your clothes are so wet from obviously sweating. So trying to pull them up is like getting into a wetsuit. So that's always a struggle. Anyway, I finished the race. Why not? I go back to my husband. He helps me to take, because all the clothes are seriously getting like a wetsuit out. So he's trying to take off, the super, tight top and my super tight leggings, and he's trying to, scrub my back because obviously you're so sore. You're like, just, wash me. And then so I jump into the shower. I don't know if it's a poop story, but it's a funny story. I go into the shower, and then there's this like tons of like debris and muck and stones coming out of me. And he's like, what the hell is this? There's like half of like tons of stuff. I didn't even feel anything.
Oh.
We were just there, and I was like, oh, it has been, because like when I sat down, I didn't care anymore. I was just like, just sat down, got up and out. But all the debris probably and all the muds and stuff stayed in there. So it was just quite funny to see his face, and he's like, what is that?
What happened? Where did you go? Why is that there?
I know. He was like, he was just quite shocked. So yeah, it was funny to see his face. And then me trying to explain him how that ended up in there. It was just,
Oh, at least we end on a laugh.
Tons of funny stories, but that is one of the funniest stories.
Oh, well, I think, like I said on social media, it's really just scratching the surface of your story. and everything you've achieved so far. But it's been fantastic to have you on, Tanya. And as I said, I don't want to take up
thank you for the
all your
invite.
evenings. So I'll definitely have you back if you'll come back, and I'll have more of a structured set of questions next time.
Oh, I loved it this way. I think it came out perfectly. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'm always available to share some stories as well.
And where can they find you? I think because you've got your website and you've got your social media.
Yeah, just in my website, getfitwithtania.com, or obviously my social media, which is at Carmona_Tania. You can follow me there and just send me, any questions. I'm always happy. Like, my end goal as well is to just invite anyone to join the sport. No disrespect with men, but more women out there. Please
encourage more young ladies to get into it.
For women, we have so much potential, and I think women are starting to get out there, but we definitely need a little bit more of maybe examples out there that they don't feel so that is too much or about the sport. So yeah, definitely, if anyone has any questions, maybe I never had anyone to ask any questions, so I kind of learned everything, in the bad way. And so if anyone has any questions, obviously shoot. I'm always happy to help and so if that's going to make more women, like I said, or people in general to join the trails, feel free.
And if you're looking for a coach as well.
Yeah, of course, as well.
Spot on. Thank you very much, Tanya. I'll stop there. That was fantastic.
Thanks. See you soon.
Like with all my guests, I absolutely adored speaking with Tanya. I learned so much about ultra running, the method that she uses not only with her own coach, but also the method she teaches to her own pupils. If I've learned one thing from both Mike and Tanya, however, it's that ultra running is definitely a masterclass in self-abuse, but one that certainly sounds enjoyable. With the whole process being less about time and more about enjoyment and camaraderie, it's definitely something I'll look into for the future. As the episode draws to a close, and as my voice dissipates even more, let's quickly cover what I hope to achieve in the rest of week 4 of the road to Amsterdam. All being well, I'll get out for another run tomorrow, being that this episode has been recorded and produced on Wednesday. My new programme is to run on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, then either a Friday or Saturday with a long run on Sunday. But with my initial plan to give blood last night, I knew I might not be able to smash my Wednesday session. My run on Tuesday also didn't go quite to plan. It was raining. It was very stop-start because there was a lot of traffic on the country roads with it being school holidays, so my legs got incredibly tight incredibly quickly. But looking back at the stats, it wasn't all that bad. I'm just not looking back on it that favourably. But with Wednesday's missed session, I'll probably head out again tomorrow on Thursday. Then keep Friday clear. Head to parkrun on Saturday before hitting my long run on Sunday. With motivation and productivity in running being pretty low the past few weeks, I'm not beating myself up about it too much. I know the road to Amsterdam is going to be long and there's plenty of time to make up the mileage. I should have really taken it a little bit easier to begin with. I know I've hit it hard very quickly, so I'm just going to take my time, build up the mileage, and hopefully the motivation and productivity will come back as well. With a small medical procedure on the cards for Monday, I know that next week will also be pretty low in mileage. More because I'm going to have a few stitches and it's not going to be very comfortable. But I'll still try and get as many kilometres in as I can. Podcast-wise, I will be joined in episode 4 by the amazing Patrick Watkins, where we discuss his truly mega run streak, his battle with marathons, and mental health through loss. As the interview's already been recorded with Patrick, it's going to be a fairly straightforward week for myself, a little bit of production, but focusing on social media and the 99 Club. But until episode 4 rolls up, I hope you stay safe, enjoy your runs, and you'll hear from me soon.